The alarm bells rang through Station Artemis 7 at exactly 1400 hours. Lieutenant Kate Morrison was in the middle of her lunch when her communicator buzzed with the emergency code. She dropped her sandwich and ran toward the Xenobiology Conservation Center, her boots hitting the metal floors with loud thuds. When she arrived, she found chaos. Handlers were running in different directions, some carrying tranquilizer guns, others shouting into their communicators. The main observation room was packed with people, all staring through the reinforced glass at something Kate could not yet see. She pushed through the crowd until she reached the front. Inside the containment area, a small creature no bigger than a common house cat was backed into a corner. Its fur was dark blue with silver spots that seemed to shimmer under the artificial lights. The creature's eyes glowed like pieces of amber, bright and fierce. Its tiny mouth was open, showing sharp white teeth that looked far too large for its small face. A tall alien stood near the entrance to the containment area. His name was Vexnor, and he belonged to a species called the Peltharians. He looked like a large bird with feathers that changed colors based on his mood. Right now, those feathers were puffed out and bright yellow, which Kate had learned meant fear. "What happened?" Kate asked a nearby technician. "Juvenile Vrelnari," the technician said, her voice shaking. "It got loose from the transport cage, bit through the handler's glove, Class 5 predator. They're trying to sedate it before it hurts someone else." Kate looked back at the creature. It was making a low growling sound, but something about it did not look right. The creature's ears were flat against its head. Its body was pressed low to the ground. Every few seconds it would glance toward the exit, then back at the handlers approaching it with their weapons ready. "It's scared," Kate said out loud. The technician looked at her like she had grown a second head. "It's a predator. It attacked a handler." "Because it's scared," Kate repeated. She did not wait for permission. She walked to the containment area entrance and pressed the button to open the door. Vexnor spun around, his feathers standing even higher. "What are you doing? You cannot go in there." "Watch me," Kate said, and stepped inside. The small Vrelnari cub immediately turned its attention to her. Its growl grew louder. Kate could hear Vexnor shouting behind her, telling her to come back, that she was going to get hurt, that the creature was dangerous. She ignored him. Kate moved slowly toward the cub. She did not look directly at it, which she knew from experience could be seen as a challenge. Instead, she looked slightly to the side, keeping the creature in her peripheral vision. When she was about 6 feet away, she lowered herself to the ground, sitting with her legs crossed. "Hey there," she said softly. "Rough day?" The cub stopped growling. Its head tilted slightly to one side, confused by this strange behavior. Kate stayed still, letting the creature decide what to do next. "I know this place is scary," Kate continued, keeping her voice calm and quiet. "Lots of noise, lots of strange smells. Nothing feels safe. I get it." The cub took a small step forward, then stopped. Its nose twitched as it tried to catch her scent. Behind the glass, the crowd had gone silent. Vexnor had his hand on his communicator, ready to call for emergency medical if things went wrong. But he did not interrupt. Something about the human's behavior made him curious, despite his fear. Kate slowly extended one hand, palm down, and held it a few inches above the ground. She did not move it toward the cub. She just held it there, an offer rather than a demand. The Vrelnari cub watched her hand for a long moment. Then, moving with the caution of something that had been hurt before, it crept forward. Its small body stayed low to the ground, ready to run if needed. When it was close enough, it stretched out its neck and sniffed Kate's hand. Kate stayed perfectly still. The cub's nose was cold and wet against her skin. It sniffed for several seconds, taking in her scent, trying to figure out what kind of creature she was. Then, slowly, the cub bumped its head against her palm. Kate had to fight to keep the smile off her face. She knew sudden expressions could startle animals. Instead, she gently scratched behind the cub's ears, right where they connected to its head. The effect was immediate. The cub's entire body relaxed. Its tail, which had been tucked between its legs, began to move back and forth in a slow wag. The growling stopped completely, replaced by a sound that was somewhere between a purr and a chirp. "There you go," Kate said quietly. "Not so scary now, is it?" The cub pressed harder against her hand, clearly wanting more attention. Kate obliged, scratching along its neck and behind its other ear. The creature made that happy sound again, louder this time. Vexnor opened the containment door carefully. He stepped inside, moving with extreme caution. His feathers had changed from yellow to a light blue, which Kate had learned meant confusion or surprise. "How did you do that?" he asked, his translator making his bird-like whistles into words. "I have studied xenobiology for 20 years. I have never seen a prey species willingly touch a Vrelnari. They are Class 5 predators, dangerous, unpredictable." Kate looked up at him while continuing to pet the cub. "He's not unpredictable. Look at his body language. The flat ears meant fear, not aggression. The low posture meant he wanted to hide, not attack. He bit that handler because he was terrified and felt cornered, not because he was hunting. But the protocols say—" "The protocols are wrong," Kate interrupted gently. "At least about this. This cub isn't a monster. He's just a baby who's scared and alone." The Vrelnari cub, seeming to understand that the conversation was about him, looked up at Vexnor. The fierce glow in his eyes had dimmed. Now he just looked like what he was, a very young creature in a strange place, wanting comfort. Vexnor stared for a long moment. Then he lowered his tranquilizer gun and attached it to his belt. "Where did you learn this technique?" "Earth," Kate said. "My home planet. We have predators there too, big ones, dangerous ones. But we learned a long time ago that understanding them works better than fearing them. My grandmother ran a wildlife sanctuary. I grew up around wolves, bears, big cats. They all have the same basic needs: food, safety, and someone who understands them. But wolves and bears are domesticated species, yes?" Kate laughed. "No, very much not domesticated. Wild animals are wild animals. But that does not mean they are evil or that they want to hurt people. It just means they have instincts we need to understand and respect." The cub climbed into Kate's lap, curling up like he had found the safest place in the universe. Within seconds, he was asleep, his small body rising and falling with each breath. Vexnor's feathers shifted to a light green, which Kate did not know the meaning of yet. "What you have done here today goes against every protocol we have established for predator species." "I know," Kate said. "The council will not approve." "Probably not. And yet you did it anyway." Kate looked down at the sleeping cub in her lap. She thought about all the protocols, all the rules that existed because people were afraid. She thought about how fear made people do cruel things, even when they thought they were doing the right thing. "Someone had to," she said simply. Vexnor was quiet for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. "Will you teach me? Will you show me how to do what you just did?" Kate looked up at him and smiled. "Yes, I will teach you. But first, this little guy needs a proper bed and some food, and someone needs to check on that handler he bit. Make sure they are okay." "The handler is fine," Vexnor assured her. "Scared, but unharmed. The cub did not bite hard enough to break skin. A warning bite, not an attack." "See?" Kate said. "He was just setting boundaries, testing to see what would happen. That is what youngsters do, whether they are predators or not." As Kate stood carefully, holding the sleeping cub, the crowd outside the containment area began to disperse. Some looked amazed, others looked worried. A few looked angry that she had broken protocol so completely. Kate did not care about any of that. She cared about the small creature in her arms who had gone from terrified to peaceful in the span of 15 minutes. She cared about changing a system that treated living beings as monsters simply because of what they were born to be. She carried the cub to a proper sleeping area, laid him down on soft bedding, and covered him with a warming blanket. Vexnor watched everything she did, taking mental notes. "What is the first lesson?" he asked. Kate looked at him seriously. "The first lesson is this: fear is natural, but it should never be the only thing that guides our actions. Understanding must come first, always." Vexenor's feathers turned a deep blue, and this time Kate knew what it meant. It meant respect. News traveled fast on Station Artemis 7. Within 3 days, everyone knew about the human who had calmed a Vrelnari cub without using drugs or weapons. Within a week, Kate Morrison's message inbox was full. Requests came from the Conservation Center, from private citizens, from scientists who had heard the story and wanted to know more. Kate tried to ignore most of them. She had her regular duties as a lieutenant, and spending time with dangerous predators was not officially part of her job description. But then Dr. Helen Crane showed up at her quarters at 2200 hours, and Kate knew she could not say no. Helen was the head of xenobiology for the entire station. She was 53 years old with gray hair that she kept tied back in a tight bun. Her face was lined with wrinkles that came from too many years of stress and too little sleep. She looked like someone who carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. "I need your help," Helen said the moment Kate opened the door. She did not ask to come in. She did not apologize for the late hour. She just held out a data tablet filled with files. Kate took the tablet and scrolled through it. Each file contained information about a different creature. There were creatures with too many teeth, creatures with claws as long as knives, creatures that looked like nightmares from old Earth horror movies. Every single file was marked with red warning labels: aggressive, dangerous, unsuitable for rehabilitation. "What is this?" Kate asked, though she had a feeling she already knew. "Failures," Helen said bluntly. "Every predator species on that list has been deemed too dangerous for standard rehabilitation. We have tried everything: sedation protocols, isolation chambers, automated feeding systems. Nothing works. They keep getting worse, not better, more violent, more unpredictable." Kate looked at the files more carefully. She saw notes from handlers who had been attacked, notes from psychologists who said the creatures were beyond help, notes from council representatives who recommended immediate termination. "Termination," Kate said the word carefully. "You mean killing them?" "Yes," Helen said. Her voice was tired. "The council has given us 6 months. If we cannot show significant improvement in rehabilitation success rates, they will authorize culling of all Class 4 and Class 5 predators currently in our care. That is 37 creatures, 37 endangered species that will go extinct because we are too afraid to figure out how to help them." Kate felt anger rise in her chest. "That is murder." "That is politics," Helen corrected. "The council is made up mostly of prey species. They outnumber predator species 90 to 1, and they are scared. They have been scared for 10,000 years. Fear makes people do terrible things, even when they think they are doing the right thing." Kate heard the echo of her own words from 3 days ago. She looked back at the tablet, at all those files marked for death. "What do you want me to do?" she asked. Helen's expression changed. For the first time since arriving, she looked hopeful. "Teach us. Show us how you do what you did with that Vrelnari cub. Show us how to understand these creatures instead of just fearing them." "I am not a xenobiologist," Kate said. "I am just a lieutenant who grew up around animals." "You are exactly what we need," Helen insisted. "All my staff have advanced degrees in xenobiology. They know every fact, every statistic, every protocol. But when they look at a predator, all they see is danger. When you look at a predator, You see an animal that needs help. That perspective is worth more than 1,000 degrees. Kate thought about it. She thought about 37 creatures waiting to die because nobody understood them. She thought about the Vrelnari cub, how easy it had been once she stopped treating him like a monster and started treating him like a scared child. I will need time away from my regular duties, Kate said finally. I have already spoken to Commander Shaw. He has approved a temporary reassignment. And your staff will have to listen to me, even when what I say goes against their training. They will listen, Helen promised. They do not want to see these creatures die any more than you do. They just do not know another way. Kate nodded. Okay, I will help. Where do we start? Helen pulled up a file on the tablet. It showed a pack of creatures called Kresh. They looked like wolves, but bigger, with scales instead of fur and eyes that glowed red in dim light. There were 6 of them in the pack. But their pack leader had died during transport. Without their leader, they had become violent and unpredictable. They had attacked 4 handlers in the past month alone. The Kresh, Helen said, they are scheduled for termination in 2 weeks unless something changes. I thought we could start with them. Kate studied the file. She read about the attacks, about the failed rehabilitation attempts, about the handlers who were now too scared to enter their containment area. Then she read about Kresh pack behavior, about how they needed hierarchy and structure, about how losing a pack leader could send them into chaos. They do not need sedation, Kate said. They need a new pack leader. We tried introducing a Kresh from another pack, Helen said. The original pack killed him within an hour. Not another Kresh, Kate said. Me. Helen's eyes went wide. Absolutely not. That is far too dangerous. These are not small cubs. They are full-grown predators with a body count. They have a body count because they are lost and scared, Kate argued. Look at the pattern. Every attack happened when someone tried to force them to do something. Move to a different area, accept food from an automated dispenser, submit to medical scans. They are not attacking because they are evil. They are attacking because they do not trust anyone and they do not know what to do without a leader to follow. And you think you can be that leader? I know I can, Kate said with confidence she did not entirely feel. But I will need backup. Someone who can sedate them if things go really wrong. I will be there myself, Helen said. With a full medical team. They started the next day. Kate spent the morning studying everything the station had about Kresh behavior. She learned about their body language, their vocalizations, their social structures. She learned that pack leaders were not chosen by fighting, but by confidence. A true Kresh pack leader never had to prove their strength through violence. They proved it through absolute certainty. When Kate entered the Kresh containment area that afternoon, she carried that certainty with her. The 6 Kresh immediately stopped what they were doing and turned to stare at her. Their red eyes gleamed in the artificial light. Their lips pulled back to show teeth designed to tear flesh from bone. Kate did not run. She did not show fear. She walked to the center of the containment area and sat down, just like she had with the Vrelnari cub. But this time, she did not make herself small. She sat with her back straight, her head high, her eyes meeting theirs without challenge, but without submission. The largest Kresh, a female with a scar across her snout, approached first. She growled low, a sound that vibrated through the floor. Kate could hear Helen behind the glass, speaking quietly into her communicator, probably telling the medical team to be ready. Kate did not move. She kept her eyes on the scarred Kresh and spoke in a calm, firm voice. I know you are angry. I know you are scared. Your leader is gone and nobody here understands what you need. But I understand. And I am here to help. The Kresh snapped her jaws inches from Kate's face. Kate did not flinch. In wolf behavior back on Earth, flinching showed weakness. Weakness invited attack. Instead, Kate slowly raised one hand and placed it on top of the Cresh's head, right between her ears. For a moment, everything was frozen. The Cresh could have bitten her hand off easily. Behind the glass, Kate heard someone gasp. But she kept her hand steady, kept her expression calm. Then the Cresh closed her mouth. Her growl faded to silence. She lowered her head slightly, a gesture of acknowledgement. Not submission, but recognition. This strange two-legged creature was not prey. She was not a threat. She was something else entirely. Kate scratched behind the Cresh's ears just like she had with the Vrelnari cub. The Cresh made a sound that was almost like a purr, deep and rumbling. One by one, the other Cresh approached. Kate greeted each of them, touching their heads, speaking calmly, showing them that she was not afraid. By the time she left the containment area 2 hours later, all 6 Cresh were following her commands. Sit, stay, come. Simple things, but things they had refused to do for anyone else. Helen was waiting outside with tears in her eyes. "How did you do that?" "I showed them I was not afraid," Kate said simply, "and I gave them what they needed most: structure, leadership, someone they could trust." Over the next 3 weeks, Kate worked with creature after creature. A juvenile Scaran who had not eaten in weeks started taking food from her hand. A Thorian Ravager who had been in isolation for 6 months let her touch him without attacking. A Zenth pack bonded with her the same way the Cresh had. Kate taught the handlers everything she knew. She showed them how to read body language instead of just responding to aggression. She introduced concepts like positive reinforcement and environmental enrichment. She explained that predators were not evil, just misunderstood. Lieutenant Commander Jake Peters, Kate's best friend since their academy days, watched one of her sessions from the observation deck. He stood next to Vexnor, who had become Kate's most dedicated student. "She makes it look easy," Jake said, watching Kate play with a creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a lizard. The creature was rolling on its back while Kate rubbed its belly. "It is not easy," Vexnor said quietly. "It requires understanding that takes years to develop. It requires courage that most of us do not have. And it requires seeing past 10,000 years of ingrained fear." "But it is working," Jake said. "Yes," Vexnor agreed. "It is working." By the end of the 6th week, Helen had enough data to present to the Council. 23 of the 37 endangered predators were showing significant improvement. 3 had been successfully reintroduced to their home planets. The rest were making steady progress. Kate thought they had won. But she did not understand politics like Helen did, and she did not understand just how much fear could drive people to do terrible things. Ambassador Felquan arrived on Station Artemis 7 with 12 representatives from different prey species. They came unannounced, demanding an immediate meeting with Commander Gregory Shaw. By the time Kate heard about it, they were already in the commander's office, and the shouting had started. Kate ran through the station corridors with Jake right behind her. When they reached the commander's office, the door was open. Inside, Commander Shaw sat behind his desk, looking tired and annoyed. He was 62 years old, with silver hair and a face that had seen too many battles. He had commanded Station Artemis 7 for 8 years, and in all that time, Kate had never seen him lose his temper. Today, he looked close. Felquan stood in front of the desk with his feathers puffed out and changing colors rapidly. The other representatives clustered around him, all talking at once. Helen stood to one side, her jaw tight, her hands clenched into fists. "You cannot allow this to continue," Felquan was saying in a high, sharp voice. "The human is violating every safety protocol established by the Council. She makes physical contact with Class 5 predators. She removes protective barriers. She enters containment areas without proper equipment. She is also saving lives," Commander Shaw said calmly. "Both Predator and Handler lives." "That is irrelevant," another representative said. This one was a quellan, a species that looked like large insects with compound eyes. The protocols exist for a reason. They have kept us safe for 10,000 years. Safe from what? Kate asked from the doorway. Everyone turned to look at her. Safe from understanding? Safe from progress? Fel Quan's feathers turned a dark red, which Kate had learned meant anger. You have no right to be here, Lieutenant Morrison. This is a council matter. It is a matter about my work, Kate shot back. That gives me every right. Commander Shaw waved her in. The lieutenant makes a fair point. If you are here to discuss her methods, she should be part of the conversation. Kate walked into the room with Jake following. She stood next to Helen, presenting a united front. Fel Quan looked like he wanted to order them out, but Commander Shaw's expression made it clear that would not happen. Very well, Fel Quan said stiffly. Let us discuss your methods, Lieutenant Morrison. You have taken creatures that our best scientists deemed too dangerous for rehabilitation and made them, what, pets? Not pets, Kate said firmly. Partners. There is a difference. Explain it to me, Fel Quan challenged. Explain how making friends with predators keeps anyone safe. Kate took a deep breath. She had practiced this speech in her head a dozen times, but now that the moment was here, all her prepared words disappeared. Instead, she spoke from the heart. You have built your entire civilization on fear, she said. You look at predators and see monsters. You see teeth and claws and hunting instincts, and you think that makes them evil. But you are wrong. We are wrong? Another representative said, her voice full of disbelief. Our species were hunted by predators for millions of years before we developed intelligence and technology. That fear is not imagined. It is survival instinct. I know, Kate said, and I am not saying your fear is not real or valid, but fear alone should not determine how we treat living beings. On my planet, we were predators. We still are, in many ways. Humans have forward-facing eyes for tracking prey. We have teeth designed to eat meat. Our ancestors hunted in packs and took down creatures much larger than themselves. The room went quiet. Several representatives looked shocked, as if this information was news to them. But we also built cities, Kate continued. We created art and music and literature. We explored space and made friends with other species. Being a predator does not make you a monster. It just makes you what you are. Pretty words, Fel Quan said coldly. But words do not change nature. A predator's instinct is to hunt, to kill. No amount of training can eliminate that. You are right, Kate agreed, surprising everyone. Training cannot eliminate instinct, but it can channel it, direct it, give it purpose. The Kresh pack I have been working with, they still have hunting instincts, but now they hunt training targets instead of handlers. They have an outlet that is safe and controlled. Until it is not, Fel Quan argued. Until one day, instinct overrides training and someone dies. That could happen, Kate admitted. Just like human soldiers can have accidents, just like your own security forces sometimes make mistakes. Nothing is perfectly safe. But that does not mean we give up. It means we learn, we improve, we do better. Helen stepped forward. If I may, Ambassador, I would like to present our data. In the 3 months since Lieutenant Morrison began her program, we have had 0 predator-related injuries. Before her program started, we averaged 4 injuries per month. Our rehabilitation success rate has increased from 12% to 89%. 3 endangered species have been successfully reintroduced to their home worlds. Numbers on a report, Fel Quan dismissed. What happens when those creatures return home and revert to their natural behaviors? What happens when they attack civilians? We monitor them, Helen said. We track their progress. We provide support to local conservation teams. This is not a situation where we set them loose and hope for the best. This is careful, controlled reintroduction with years of follow-up. A different representative spoke up. This one was a Melvian, a species that looked like tall, thin humanoids with purple skin. I have read your reports, Dr. Crane. They are impressive, but they do not address the fundamental question. Why should we trust predators when our entire history tells us not to? Kate looked at the Melvian directly. Because trust is not about forgetting history. It is about learning from it and choosing to be better. My grandmother used to tell me a story. Thousands of years ago on Earth, humans and wolves were enemies. Wolves hunted our livestock. We hunted wolves to near extinction. It was a cycle of fear and violence that benefited no one. And then what happened? The Melvian asked, genuinely curious now. Someone broke the cycle, Kate said. Someone looked at a wolf and saw not just a predator but a potential partner. They offered food. They offered shelter. They showed patience and understanding. And slowly, over generations, wolves became dogs. They became our companions, our helpers, our friends. We changed them, but they changed us too. They taught us about loyalty and trust. You cannot compare wild predators to domesticated animals, Felquan protested. Why not? Kate challenged. Every domesticated animal started as a wild creature someone decided to trust. Every partnership begins with someone choosing understanding over fear. Jake, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. I have known Kate for 7 years. We went through academy training together. I have seen her face down armed pirates without flinching. I have seen her stay calm during station emergencies that had grown soldiers panicking. If she says these creatures can be trusted, I believe her. Your belief is noted, Commander Peters, Felquan said dismissively. But belief does not make policy. Facts do. Evidence does. And the fact is that predators are dangerous. So are you, Kate said quietly. Everyone stared at her. When you are scared, you want to kill 37 endangered creatures. That is dangerous. Fear makes people cruel. It makes them hurt others to feel safe. I have seen more danger from scared prey species than I have from any predator. Felquan's feathers turned almost black with rage. How dare you? She is right, Commander Shaw interrupted. His voice was calm but firm. Ambassador, I have commanded this station for 8 years. I have dealt with pirates, smugglers, terrorists, and more. The most dangerous situations I have faced were not caused by predators. They were caused by people acting out of fear. Fear makes us irrational. It makes us see threats where none exist. It makes us destroy things we should protect. Are you saying we should not be afraid of predators? Another representative asked. I am saying fear should not be the only factor in our decisions, Shaw replied. Lieutenant Morrison has shown us another way. A better way. And the results speak for themselves. Felquan was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold and controlled. The Council will send observers. They will monitor every aspect of your program. If there is a single incident, a single injury, a single moment where a predator shows dangerous behavior, this program ends, and Lieutenant Morrison will face formal charges for protocol violations. That is acceptable, Shaw said before Kate could respond. Furthermore, Felquan continued, all rehabilitated predators must wear tracking devices. All reintroduction sites must have automated defense systems. And no predator above Class 3 will be allowed within 5 sectors of any major population center. Some of those conditions are excessive, Helen protested. Those are our terms, Felquan said flatly. Accept them or the program ends now. Kate wanted to argue. She wanted to point out how unfair these conditions were, how they treated the predators like criminals instead of living beings deserving respect. But she could see Commander Shaw's expression. He was telling her silently to accept the deal. They could fight for better terms later. Right now, they just needed to keep the program alive. We accept, Kate said, though the words tasted bitter. Felquan and his delegation left shortly after. The moment they were gone, Kate slumped against the wall. Jake put a hand on her shoulder. "You did good," he said. "You kept the program alive." "I agreed to treat them like prisoners," Kate said. "Tracking devices, defense systems, how is that showing trust?" "It is not," Helen agreed. "But it is better than extinction. We work within their system now, and we change it from the inside. One step at a time." Commander Shaw stood up from his desk. "The ambassador was scared today. Did you notice? All that anger, all that posturing, it was fear. You challenged everything he believes about the universe. That is terrifying for someone who has built their entire identity on those beliefs." "So what do we do?" Kate asked. Shaw smiled slightly. "We prove him wrong. We run a perfect program, 0 incidents, perfect success rate, and slowly, very slowly, we change minds." Kate nodded. She thought about the Vrelnari cub sleeping peacefully in his habitat. She thought about the creche pack, who now greeted her like family. She thought about all the creatures who would live instead of die because of this program. "Then let us get back to work," she said. The transport ship arrived at Station Artemis 7 3 months after the Council delegation left. It carried supplies, new personnel, and one passenger that nobody was expecting. A juvenile Draxor pulled from the wreckage of a crashed merchant vessel. Kate was off duty when the emergency alert went through the station. She was in her quarters trying to catch up on sleep after a long week of training new handlers. The alarm woke her from a dream she could not quite remember. She grabbed her uniform and ran. By the time she reached the conservation center, the situation had already gone bad. The Draxor, a creature that looked like someone had crossed a large cat with a reptile, had escaped from its transport cage during the initial medical scan. The creature was terrified and confused, lashing out at anything that moved. It had already injured 2 technicians and cornered 2 more against a wall in the main examination room. Station security had arrived in force. Carl Hayes, the chief of security, had his team positioned around the room with weapons drawn. Carl was a stocky man with a shaved head and a permanent scowl. He had never liked Kate's program, and he had made no secret of it. "Stand down," Kate said the moment she arrived, still pulling on her jacket. "Do not shoot." Carl did not lower his weapon. "We have authorization to terminate hostile subjects. 2 people are injured. 2 more are in immediate danger." "It is not hostile," Kate argued, pushing past security officers to get a better view. "It is scared." Through the observation window, she could see the Draxor. It was smaller than she expected, barely the size of a large dog. Its scales were a deep green that shifted to blue in the light. Its eyes were wide and yellow, darting between the cornered technicians and the security teams. The creature's back was arched high, its tail lashing back and forth, its mouth open to show rows of sharp teeth. But Kate saw what others did not. The Draxor's scales were puffed out, making it look bigger than it really was. Its pupils were dilated so wide they were almost round. Its entire body was shaking. These were not the signs of an aggressive predator. These were the signs of something absolutely terrified. "Give me 5 minutes," Kate said to Carl. "If I cannot calm it down, you can do what you need to do." "Absolutely not," Carl said. "That thing has already hurt people. We are not risking more casualties." "Carl," Kate said, trying to keep her voice calm despite her rising panic. She could see the Draxor tensing, preparing to strike. If security opened fire, the creature would die, and so would any chance of proving her program worked. "Please, 5 minutes. That is all I am asking." Behind them, Helen arrived with Jake right behind her. "Chief Hayes," Helen said with authority, "I am the ranking science officer on this station. I am authorizing Lieutenant Morrison's approach." Carl's jaw tightened. He looked like he wanted to argue, but Helen outranked him in matters involving the conservation center. 5 minutes, he said finally, but my team stays ready. One wrong move and we shoot. Kate did not wait for him to change his mind. She stripped off her jacket, leaving herself in just a plain shirt and pants. No equipment, no barriers, nothing that could be seen as threatening. Then she opened the door to the examination room and stepped inside. "Kate, do not!" Jake called out, but she was already closing the door behind her. The Draxer immediately turned its attention to her. Its hissing grew louder, a sound like steam escaping from a broken pipe. Kate could see the two cornered technicians, both young women with terror written across their faces. One of them had blood running down her arm where the creature's claws had caught her. "Hey there," Kate said softly, not making direct eye contact. "Bad day?" "Huh?" The Draxer lunged at her. Kate was ready for it. She stepped to the side smoothly, not fleeing, just moving. The creature skidded past her, its claws scraping against the metal floor. It spun around, confused by this strange behavior. Prey was supposed to run. Why was this one not running? "You lost your family," Kate continued, keeping her voice calm and steady. "Woke up somewhere strange with loud noises and bright lights. Everyone here is pointing weapons at you. Nobody speaks your language. That must be so scary." The Draxer circled her, growling low. Its tail whipped back and forth. Kate could hear Carl outside, counting down her 5 minutes. She could feel everyone watching, waiting for her to fail. Kate slowly lowered herself to the ground. She sat with her legs crossed, her hands in her lap. Her head tilted slightly down. It was a submissive posture, non-threatening. The Draxer stopped circling. It approached cautiously, its nose twitching as it tried to catch her scent. "I am not going to hurt you," Kate said. "Nobody here wants to hurt you. But you are scared, and when you are scared, you bite. I understand that, I really do." The creature moved closer, so close Kate could feel its breath on her face. Its teeth were inches from her throat. One bite and she would be dead. Behind the glass, she heard someone gasp, but Kate stayed perfectly still. The Draxer sniffed her hair, her face, her hands. It was trying to understand what she was, whether she was a threat or something else. Kate barely breathed. She let the creature take all the time it needed. Finally, after what felt like hours but was probably only seconds, the Draxer made a sound. Not a hiss or a growl, but something softer, almost like a whimper. Then the creature collapsed beside Kate, its legs giving out. It was shaking so hard its teeth were chattering. Kate slowly reached out and placed her hand on the Draxer's side. The creature flinched but did not pull away. She could feel its heart racing under her palm, beating so fast it felt like vibrations. "It is okay," Kate whispered. "You are safe now, I promise." The Draxer curled into a ball, pressing itself against Kate's side. The fierce predator that had injured 2 people and terrified a dozen more was now just a baby seeking comfort. Kate wrapped her arms around it carefully, supporting its weight. "Okay," she called out, her voice still calm despite the adrenaline rushing through her system. "Someone get medical to those technicians, and I need a containment blanket and some water. This little one is going to be here for a while." The door opened and Helen came in, moving slowly and carefully. She carried a soft blanket and a water bottle. The Draxor lifted its head to look at her, but Kate's hand on its neck kept it calm. "Easy," Kate murmured. "She is a friend. She is here to help." Helen spread the blanket over the Draxer, and Kate carefully adjusted her position so the creature was lying across her lap, wrapped up like a child. The Draxer's eyes were starting to close, exhausted from fear and stress. Outside, Carl was arguing with Jake. Kate could hear pieces of it through the door. Carl was saying she had gotten lucky, that next time someone would die, that the program was too dangerous to continue. Helen sat down beside Kate. That was incredibly brave and incredibly foolish. Maybe, Kate agreed, but look at him. He is not a monster. He is just scared and alone. The Draxer was sleeping now, making small sounds with each breath. Kate could see the injuries it had sustained in the crash, a partially healed cut along its side, patches where scales were missing, a slight swelling in one leg. This creature had been through trauma, both physical and emotional. "What happened in the crash?" Kate asked quietly. Helen's expression grew sad. "Merchant transport. Family-run ship. The Draxer belonged to the captain's daughter. She was taking it home to her planet for official registration. But there was a reactor failure. The ship broke apart. Everyone died, except this little one. He was protected in a cargo pod that happened to have life support." Kate looked down at the sleeping creature. She thought about how terrifying that must have been, to lose everything in an instant, to wake up alone with strangers. No wonder he had lashed out. "He needs a name," Kate said. "Kate, we do not name conservation subjects," Helen protested. "It makes it harder to remain objective." "He needs a name," Kate repeated firmly. "He lost his family. The least we can do is treat him like more than a number on a file." Helen sighed but did not argue further. "What do you want to call him?" Kate thought for a moment. "Scout. We will call him Scout." Over the next hour, more people came to help. A medical team treated the injured technicians. Both would be fine, though one needed stitches. Vexnor arrived with proper habitat bedding and age-appropriate food. Jake brought a portable heater because the examination room was too cold for a juvenile Draxer. Through it all, Kate stayed with Scout, keeping him calm and secure. When he finally woke up, confused and frightened again, she was there. When he tried to lash out from instinct, she gently redirected him. When he whimpered from pain in his injured leg, she held him while medical staff examined it carefully. By the time they moved Scout to a proper habitat 3 hours later, he would not let Kate leave. Every time she tried to step away, he would cry out and follow her. So she stayed, sitting on the floor of his new home while he explored cautiously, always coming back to press against her side. Jake brought her dinner and ate with her while Scout napped. "Carl is filing an official complaint," Jake told her quietly. "He is saying you violated safety protocols, that you put civilians at risk." Kate looked at Scout, sleeping peacefully for the first time since the crash. "I know. The council observers saw everything. They are writing their reports right now." "I know," Kate said again. "Kate, if they shut down your program—" "Then at least Scout is alive," Kate interrupted. "At least he has a chance. That is worth whatever happens to me." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. "You know, when we were at the academy, I used to think you were crazy. You would rescue injured animals that everyone else avoided. You would spend your free time at the wildlife center instead of at parties. I did not understand it then." "And now?" Kate asked. "Now I think you are still crazy," Jake said, "but I also think you are right, about all of it, about predators, about fear, about everything." 2 days later, the council observers delivered their reports. Kate was called to Commander Shaw's office to hear the verdict. She expected the worst. She expected to be told the program was over, that she was being reassigned, that Scout and all the others would be terminated. Instead, Shaw looked up from his desk and smiled. The observers were impressed. They said your handling of the Draxor incident demonstrated exactly why your program is necessary. They are recommending expansion. Kate felt her legs go weak with relief. "Expansion?" "To 3 more stations," Shaw confirmed. "They want you to train teams across the sector. Your method is officially being adopted as standard protocol." Kate could not speak. She had won. Despite everything, despite all the fear and doubt and resistance, she had actually won. But even as relief flooded through her, she knew this was just the beginning. The real work was still ahead. 6 months after Scout's arrival, Kate stood in front of the Galactic Council and proposed something that many considered impossible. She wanted to create integrated habitats where predator and prey species could live together, learning about each other naturally instead of through fear and separation. The proposal chamber was massive, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform where Kate stood. Hundreds of representatives from dozens of species filled those seats, all of them staring at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Felquan sat in the front row, his feathers a neutral gray that gave nothing away. For 10,000 years, this council has kept predators and prey separate, Kate began, her voice steady despite her nervousness. You believed it was the only way to maintain peace, but separation breeds fear, and fear breeds violence. I propose we try something different. A representative from the Quellen hive mind stood up. You are suggesting we put our children in habitats with creatures that could kill them? That is madness. I am suggesting we teach all our children that predators are not monsters, Kate replied. The integrated habitat would be carefully controlled, adult supervision at all times, predators who have completed full rehabilitation training, prey species volunteers who understand the risks. This would not be some chaotic experiment. It would be structured, safe, and monitored. Nothing involving predators is safe, another representative argued. Kate pulled up a holographic display showing footage from the conservation center. The Vrelnari cub, now nearly full-grown, playing gently with a group of Peltharian youngsters who had volunteered for supervised interaction sessions. Scout wrestling with Kate, his tail wagging, his movements careful and controlled despite his size and strength. The creche pack working alongside handlers to help train new conservation staff. These are the same creatures you wanted to kill a year ago, Kate said. The same predators you called unstable and dangerous. Look at them now. They are not attacking. They are not hunting. They are living, learning, and forming bonds with species they were supposed to be natural enemies with. Felquan stood up, drawing everyone's attention. Lieutenant Morrison has achieved impressive results. This, I will admit. But her success is based on individual relationships. One human working with small groups of predators. What you are proposing is fundamentally different. You are proposing we change the entire structure of our society. Yes, Kate said simply. I am. The chamber erupted into noise. Representatives shouted questions and objections. Some demanded she be removed from the platform. Others wanted to hear more. Commander Shaw, who had come as an observer, sat quietly in the visitor section with Helen and Jake beside him. The council leader, an elderly Melvian named Elder Kresh, raised his hand for silence. The chamber gradually quieted. Lieutenant Morrison, I have a question. You are human. Your species are predators, are you not? Yes, Kate confirmed, and yet you live peacefully among prey species. You have not attempted to hunt or harm anyone on this station. Why is that? Kate smiled. Because I was raised to see all species as equals. I was taught that having predator instincts does not make me a monster. It just makes me who I am. I channel those instincts into my work, into protecting others, into making the galaxy better. That is what I want to teach these creatures, not to deny what they are, but to find purpose in it. Elder Kresh leaned forward. And you believe all predators can learn this? I believe all predators deserve the chance to learn it, Kate said. Just like all prey species deserve to live without constant fear. The current system benefits no one. Predators are treated like criminals before they commit any crime. Prey species live in constant anxiety about threats that rarely materialize. Everyone loses. The vote was close. Out of 400 representatives, 212 voted in favor of the pilot program, 179 voted against, and 9 abstained. It was just enough. The integrated habitat was built over the next 4 months on a remote section of Station Artemis 7. It was enormous, spanning 3 square kilometers with diverse terrain, water features, and carefully designed spaces for both predators and prey. The habitat was monitored by hundreds of sensors and cameras, with emergency response teams on standby at all times. Kate moved into the habitat on the first day. She lived in a small dwelling built into a hillside, visible from most areas, so the inhabitants would always know where she was. Scout moved in with her, now fully grown and loyal as any dog. The Vrelnari she had first met, who everyone had started calling Boots because of how their relationship began, also joined them. Over the following weeks, other creatures were gradually introduced. The Kresh Pack, several more Vrelnari, 3 Thorian Ravagers, a family of Scarans. Each introduction was carefully planned and supervised. At first, the predators kept to their own territories, unsure how to behave without cages and barriers. Then the prey species volunteers arrived, a group of Peltharians, including Vexnor, who wanted to observe predator behavior in a natural setting. Several Quellans interested in xenopsychology, a handful of Melvians studying social dynamics, even 2 young humans from a colony ship that had recently made contact with the Council. The first few days were tense. The prey species volunteers stayed close to the emergency shelters, watching the predators from a distance. The predators watched back, curious but cautious. Kate spent those days moving between groups, reassuring everyone, explaining behaviors, building bridges. The breakthrough came on the 5th day. One of the young Peltharians, a child named Pip, who was barely 8 years old in human years, wandered away from his parents to investigate an interesting rock formation. He did not notice Boots watching him from a nearby hill until the Vrelnari approached. Kate was on the other side of the habitat when she heard the emergency signal. She ran toward the location, her heart pounding, terrified that something had gone wrong. When she arrived, she found Pip and Boots sitting together, the child carefully petting the massive predator's head, while Boots made happy chirping sounds. "He just walked up to me," Pip said excitedly when his parents arrived, frantic with worry, "and he bumped my hand like he wanted pets, so I gave him pets. Is that okay?" Kate felt tears in her eyes. "Yes, Pip, that is very okay." Word of the incident spread quickly. Soon, more children were approaching the predators under careful supervision. The adults followed, slowly overcoming generations of instinctive fear. The predators, for their part, seemed to blossom with the positive attention. They became gentler, more playful, more engaged. Jake visited Kate in the habitat 3 months after it opened. He brought news from Commander Shaw. "The Council wants you to present a progress report. They are considering expanding the program to other stations." Kate sat on the hillside outside her dwelling, watching Scout play with a group of mixed-species youngsters below. Predators and prey, tumbling together in the grass, laughing and chirping and growling in ways that were clearly joyful rather than aggressive. "5 years ago, I was just a lieutenant who liked animals," Kate said. "I never imagined any of this." "You changed the galaxy," Jake said, echoing words he had spoken before. "I did not change the galaxy," Kate replied. "I just showed them what was possible. They are changing themselves." Over the next 3 years, integrated habitats opened on 12 more stations. The program was not without problems. There were incidents, moments when instinct overrode training, times when fear caused panic. But these were rare, and each incident led to better protocols, better training, better understanding. The predator laws were gradually revised. Predators were no longer required to wear muzzles in public spaces. They could apply for civilian jobs beyond security work. Mixed species schools opened, where predator and prey children learned together. It was not perfect, and it was not fast, but it was real progress. Kate was promoted to captain and given command of the newly created Xenobiology Corps, a division dedicated to improving relationships between species across the galaxy. She trained hundreds of handlers in her methods. She consulted with council representatives on new policies. She traveled to dozens of worlds, helping local populations overcome their fears. But she always returned to Station Artemis 7, to the original integrated habitat that had started everything. That was home. On the 5th anniversary of Boots biting her shoe, Kate sat on her favorite hillside watching the sunset. The sky was artificial, a holographic projection that mimicked the cycles of a natural planet, but it was beautiful nonetheless. Scout lay beside her, his head resting on her lap. Boots dozed nearby, occasionally opening one eye to check on them. Helen climbed the hill to join her, moving slower than she used to. The stress of running the conservation center had aged her, but she seemed happy. The council just approved funding for 20 more integrated habitats. They want your input on the designs. Always more work, Kate said, but she was smiling. Always, Helen agreed. She sat down on Kate's other side. You know, when you first proposed this crazy idea, I thought you would get us all killed. I am glad I was wrong. I am glad too, Kate said. They sat in comfortable silence, watching as a mixed group of youngsters played tag across the meadow below. Predator and prey, chasing each other without fear, without violence, just children being children. Vexnor joined them a few minutes later, his feathers a peaceful blue-green. The last transport just left with 3 more rehabilitated Vrelnari heading home. That makes 47 successful reintroductions this year. 47 creatures who would have died, Kate said quietly. 47 species given a second chance. Because of you, Vexnor said. Kate shook her head. Because of all of us. Because we chose to try. Because we chose understanding over fear. Below them, Scout stood up and stretched. He trotted down the hill toward the playing youngsters, joining their game with gentle playfulness that made everyone laugh. He was enormous now, powerful enough to be dangerous if he chose. But he did not choose danger. He chose friendship. That night, after everyone else had gone to their dwellings, Kate stood outside looking at the real stars beyond the habitat dome. She thought about how far they had come. She thought about how much further they had to go. There were still stations where predators were not welcome, still worlds where fear ruled, still minds that needed to be changed. But change was happening, slowly, gradually, one relationship at a time. That was enough. Scout bumped his head against her hand, asking for attention. Kate scratched behind his ears, and he made that happy rumbling sound that meant contentment. Boots joined them, pressing against her other side. Together, they stood under the stars, a human and 2 predators, friends by choice rather than circumstance. We did it, Kate whispered to them. We actually did it. Scout chirped softly in response. Boots made his purring sound. And Kate knew that whatever challenges came next, whatever fears still needed to be overcome, they would face them together. Not as predator and prey, not as enemies forced into peace, but as partners who had chosen to trust each other. That trust, Kate had learned, was the most powerful force in the galaxy. Stronger than fear, stronger than instinct, strong enough to change everything. And it had all started with a scared cub biting her boot, and Kate choosing to understand instead of react. That single choice had rippled outward, touching thousands of lives, reshaping an entire civilization's understanding of what was possible. The instructor had shouted for her to be careful. The protocols had demanded caution. Fear had demanded distance. But Kate had said, he is testing boundaries, and chosen compassion instead. Sometimes, she reflected, the most revolutionary act is simply treating others with the kindness and understanding they deserve. Sometimes changing the galaxy is as simple as sitting down with someone scary and choosing to see them as they truly are. Not a monster, but a living being deserving of respect. That was the human way. That was the lesson Kate had taught the galaxy, and it was a lesson that would echo through the stars for generations to come.